Okay, hello everyone. I hope you're doing well. It has been more than a week that I didn't post anything. Sorry for that. Well, vacation, busy with that. But I know everyone is on edge, so this video is also, I try also to help students. Well, this video is not particular for a PhD or those who want to pass the PhD exam, want to sit for the PhD exam, but for all students who are studying or they do deal with didactics. Today's video, we are going to talk about how to revise for didactics. One of the problems I always see, people tend to ask this question. I see it a lot on my YouTube channel, also on my Facebook page. So how can I deal with didactics? The best way to deal with it, you have to follow what we call the teaching learning process or the teaching learning elements. You start from the beginning, and with the beginning, that will be the curriculum. So at the beginning, you have the idea of curriculum, and of course, sometimes you have the idea of the syllabus itself. You need to start from that. What do we need to do? That we need to develop develop each idea alone. For example, let's start with the idea of curriculum. The first thing that is going to deal with is approaches and method, of course, but try to look at them not like something you are going to memorize, but try to look at them as ideas that we have developed throughout these years in order to enhance the teaching learning process. This is something I really want you to remember when it comes to any idea of didactics. Always remember that everything we do is to enhance teaching and learning process, or is to provide effective and efficient teaching and learning. Because this sentence, you can start any essay with it. Now, when we have different approaches, but why we have different approaches? Because there are reasons why. The first reason is because our understanding of language, that first, has evolved significantly. In the past, we used to talk about the structure of the language. Of course, in that regard, we grammar, translation, method, and we had also, so it was enough. But now we're talking about more of learning process. So we pushed further, thinking about considering cognitive aspects and learners. We talked about affective aspects. We talk about communication. But even that is not enough now. For if we are talking about the post-pandemic era. We're talking about the 21st century skills. So even these theories now, they are challenged. I do believe last year there was a question concerning that these theories, that the 21st century skills present a challenge to previous theories. So this is something you really have to understand, because why we have different approaches, why different curriculum? Because it's kind of a reaction to what is happening. We have social change, economic change, we have political change. All these are affecting what we call curriculum design. For example, if we talk about social change, let's say talk about the pandemic and the post-pandemic era. Now we're talking about blended learning. It has become a necessity, not like in the past. In the past, the talk about technology was more just kind of an optional. Now it's not. It's mandatory at university. We use it all the time. We teach with blended learning. Of course, whether it's effective or not, this is a question of debate. You can also have a question concerning that. Now, this is concerning the curriculum side. Of course, we said we talk about the curriculum. Now you can talk about the narrow perspective of the curriculum, which is usually the syllabus when it's come to content. Of course, this is another element in the teaching learning process. You start with curriculum, then you move to content, which is the syllabus. What kind of content are we going to choose to teach? This also is going to take you to needs analysis. Even if we are talking about EGP, English for General Purpose, there's still what we call needs analysis. And there is, of course, what at least what the stakeholders want from the curriculum or teaching English. But of course, when you talk about EGP, so this is also important. For example, let's say in the past, English in Algeria was simply a foreign language that, in fact, we didn't even use. But now we see there is some social political change. I can call it social political change. And this change is not pushing, has pushed English to be now implemented at primary school. So this is something really to be minded of. So What you should revise when it comes to curriculum, first you need to define it. Of course, you need to know the types of curriculum or what kind of consideration to be. So, by the way, these questions you should all put write down and answer. So, what type of curriculum, considerations to be taken when it comes to designing a curriculum, whether ESP or EGP. Of course, we're talking about approaches and the development of these approaches. You'll talk about them, for example, how the new skills 21st centuries present a challenge for these approaches. So all these when it comes to approaches, of course, and syllabus. Now, once you talk about this, of course, there are other elements. You are going to talk about. We talk about also. We said we talked about flipped classroom. We talked about blended learning, the use of technology. Even those that are related more to the classroom, but they are of course considered with the approach and method at the level of the curriculum itself. Of course, we talk about textbook. We talk about content selection. So this is what comes to the approach and methods and the curriculum in general. Now you move to teacher role. What do we have with the teachers? Of course, the simple thing, we have the role of the teacher. This is something very important. You need to develop an essay talking about the different roles, the difference between the role of the teacher in the past and the role of teachers in the present. And of course, you try to link that, of course, with the approaches and methods. You also, there is the idea of the characteristics of the teachers themselves. There is what's called experience of the teacher. Here you can talk about the development in training before, whether in training or before the pre-service, pre-service, pre-service training or in-service training. This is something also to be reminded. So all these are questions, are potential questions. And of course, we talk about said experience, training, characteristics. All these are related to teachers, problems with teachers, with students, the relationship between the teachers and learners. These are some potential questions you can have. Then, of course, since we are talking about teachers, there is directly the opposite side, which is learners. And when learners get things really interesting because we focus more on learners. So the first thing is the role of learners when it comes to communicative approaches, or when it comes to 21st century skills, how do we acquire them? Then, of course, we are talking about, well, this topic is, I haven't seen it, or we don't talk about it as teachers, gender differences. We talk about the abilities, maybe learning styles of learners. You can talk about motivation, affective factors, where there is the side of learner autonomy. All these are potential subjects when it comes to the side of learners. Then, of course, you go, since we have teachers, we have learners, we have classroom activities. Classroom activities, well, in simple sense, they are defined, that's the interaction between teachers and learners. And then we have, of course, the classroom. Since I have just mentioned teachers and learners and the classroom, what do we have in the classroom? The first thing we have is classroom management. That's the role of the teacher. But in the classroom, the classroom itself is an environment. So we need to talk about it, the environment of the classroom. How does it affect teaching and learning process? In this regard, for example, you need to know about the use of technology, as I said, classroom management. You need to talk about how teachers, how the teacher and learners, and even learners. So, for example, we're talking about project-based approach, so making projects in class. We're talking about collaboration inside the class. All these are important subjects that you need to tackle. Of course, then come, this is the side of learners. Now, classroom activity, classroom activities is really subject that sometimes may seem to learn as a very limited, but it is not, because it can be linked even to the next idea, which is assessment. Now, when it comes to assessment, now you need to talk about different topics. The obvious topic is the definition of assessment, of course, and there are types of assessment. And of course, you need to talk about some concepts related to assessment. Let's say, for example, the washback effect. The washback effect is very important that you need really to take a look and devise an essay concerning that. There is something also that I want you to do when you are revising, and of course, when you tackle the basic concept and everything, try to tackle what he calls trends now, trends in every element. For example, Try to use internet and or read books and see, of course, mostly internet, because books, many people sometimes find them, oh, this is a problematic. So try to find trends in what comes with every element. For example, go and find trends in curriculum. What do we have as new elements, one new concept when it comes to curriculum? That also when it comes to the teacher role, the learner's role. For example, I have in front of me a website, and I do have some interesting ideas concerning assessment. For example, we see now we focus more on formative assessment. There is the what we see here, that there is a shift from grading to standards based grading. We talk about more of analyzing data when it comes to assessment. So there is a really a big shift when it comes to assessment. Of course, this is really too much. Of course, we are talking about several essays that are going to be written, but this kind of revision is going to be really thorough, and it's going to really to help you in understanding the field of didactics. There is another point that I wanted to devise a new video for it, but let me talk about it briefly. One of the issues students have usually when they revise, it's like they compartmentalize their mind. So they put this essay here, this idea is here in their brains. So once they are answering, it's like they don't have access to, if the essay is about assessment and particular subject and assessment, they don't think about the other element, and this is wrong. Even for example, if you are answering an essay that has a link with assessment, there is still room on how you can, there is room to mention, for example, the idea of the approach itself, the idea of the role of the teacher. There is always a way to include that, because these elements, they are really related. And not only related, they are aligned. So if you change one aspect, in fact, you are changing everything. And this is something you have to bear in mind. This is going to be subject on another video, inshallah, very soon. So this video is just wanted to help you. In fact, this is kind of a discussion, although I am the only one talking, but it's a discussion on how you can revise didactics. The next video, inshallah, I'm going to talk about how you should revise research methodology, because many have asked me this question. So I really hope you have enjoyed this video. I would like you please to support this channel, subscribe, like, and share. Thank you so much, and see you inshallah soon.